Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 episode number 108 based on novel. So let's start. After registering at the registration point and providing the administrative details for the tournament, the Tang sect team was led to a region with all wooden benches. It was even in a dilapidated corner. Everyone from the Tang sect looked very gloomy upon being awarded such poor treatment. Xiao Xiao and Jiang Nannan were also furious. This is too much. Xiao Xiao hissed furiously. He Kaitu comforted her by patting her shoulders and smiled, but he didn't say anything. Hua Yuhao smiled and said, "This is nothing much. I'll use my abilities to tell them that they are wrong. That'll be enough, right?" The sun had already risen at this point. As rays of sunlight shone on everyone from the east, every competitor seemed to be layered with gold. There were simply too many competing teams, and it took a whole hour for every team to settle down. The rapturous cheers from the public could also be heard in the distance. Hua Yuhao was jolted suddenly, and turned in a certain direction. It was an extremely mysterious team. Zhong Peng was leading them, and there was a group of people behind him. They were all in black warrior robes, and wore headdresses with veils. These veils concealed their appearances. There was a lady with an excellent figure behind Zhong Peng. A weird aura was coming from her that seemed as if it were drawing all light towards her. When Hua Yuhao's spiritual power got close to her, it was distorted and unable to get within a foot of her. Naturally, he couldn't use his spiritual detection on her. Tang Ya was following behind this lady. Even though Tang Ya was wearing a veil, Hua Yuhao could still tell that it was her. The Holy Ghost Church. Hua Yuhao squinted. It was indeed them. The Holy Ghost Church was here to compete. Teacher Xiao Ya, what should I do if I meet you in the tournament? Who was the lady in front of her? Her abilities were very weird. However, Hua Yuhao found the sense of distortion vaguely familiar for some reason. Zhong Peng stopped in his tracks just as he was about to proceed towards the pergola. He turned around and faced Hua Yuhao. Hua Yuhao quickly retracted his spiritual power. Even though his spiritual cultivation was great, his soul power cultivation was still limited. Since Zhong Peng was a transcendent Doluo, there were many ways he could deal with Hua Yuhao. Zhong Peng scanned him with a cold look before he led the men in black towards the pergola. Hua Yuhao saw a few familiar faces after this. There was the Star Luo National Academy's team led by Princess Jojo, as well as the team with Mu Shui and Wei Na. They didn't seem to be from any academy of the Heavenly Soul Empire. From their uniforms, they seemed more likely to have come from a sect. Mo Feiyun was the one leading the team. However, the transcendent Doluo that had appeared the previous day did not make an appearance. Apart from these few teams, there were many unfamiliar faces, especially those sects that had rushed out from the various other empires on the continent. Hua Yuhao knew nothing about them. He could only use his spiritual detection to observe and ascertain their cultivations. Look. What is that? Jiang Nannan's voice caught Hua Yuhao's attention. A company of special soldiers were proceeding over quickly from the north of the main stage. These soldiers were wearing golden warrior robes, but they weren't equipped with any weapons. With Hua Yuhao's vision, he could even read their expressions clearly. These golden-clothed guards were all at least 30 years old. They all restrained their expressions, but there were definitely soul power undulations coming from them. There were around 500 of them, but they didn't make a sound as they proceeded over. As the sun shone down on them, they glittered and were almost blinding. These soldiers quickly dispersed as they reached the foot of the main stage, surrounding the entire stage. Around 50 of them stood in position without moving. As metal clanging sounds were heard, they brandished soul cannons and pointed the cannons outward. The rest of the soldiers also unleashed different types of soul tools and entered a weird formation. At least 10 of the heavy cannons caught Hua Yuhao's attention. He could tell that they were at least Class 7 soul tools. He Kaitu told everyone, Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Division. This is one of the true core strengths of the Sun Moon Empire. Oh, how many of them are there, second senior? Hua Yuhao suddenly recalled what his and He Kaitu's identities were. He looked over towards He Kaitu. He Kaitu was also looking back at him. He didn't seem as simple as before anymore. His eyes were flashing with a radiant glow. There are only 1,000 people in the division. Half of them are here now. They are all at least Class 5 soul engineers, equipped with the best soul tools. Their leader is a Class 9 soul engineer, and only accepts orders from the Emperor himself. They are the trump card of all trump cards. Their importance to the Imperial family is only inferior to the Imperial Shrine. Isn't the Emperor seriously ill? Has he recovered? Hua Yuhao was stunned. At this point, a group of people arrived. They were escorted by the Soul Engineering Division on chariots and horses to the main stage. There was a small imperial chariot pulled by 32 horses. There were also many guards and officials decked in luxurious courtwear behind this chariot. The chariot stopped in front of the main stage. Two maids pulled open curtains embroidered with silver lotuses, and a wheelchair was pushed out. There was a handsome youth in the wheelchair. It's him. Huo Yuhao was stunned to see that it wasn't the emperor coming out from the chariot. It was the crown prince, Xu Tianran. Only the emperor could sit in such a chariot. Since Xu Tianran dared to sit in this chariot, everyone knew what it signified. Following this, Huo Yuhao focused his attention again. He saw that the person pushing the wheelchair was Ju Zi. Ju Zi was still as beautiful as ever, her complexion even more delicate now. Compared to before, her beautiful eyes had a more dignified look, and she was extremely elegant, like a queen. There was one person walking beside Ju Zi. Jing Hongchen. He was an extremely powerful Class 9 soul engineer who held a respected status in the Sun Moon Empire. Ads by Pub Future. Greetings to Prince Regent and Regentess. Aside from the Soul Engineering Division, all the officials present knelt down and greeted Xu Tianran. Regent. It seemed like the Sun Moon Empire's emperor wasn't dead yet. Regentess. Ju Zi, she actually. Indescribable emotions filled Huo Yuhao's heart and made him short of breath. She has married him and become his legitimate wife. Ju Zi, why are you doing this just for revenge? A smooth and delicate hand reached out for Huo Yuhao's shoulder. Huo Yuhao turned around and saw Wang Dong's clear, powdery blue eyes. I'm fine. Huo Yuhao gently shook his head. Wang Dong smiled and said, it's great that you are fine. As she said that, she grabbed Huo Yuhao's right hand. Huo Yuhao's sadness slightly dissipated when he felt Wang Dong's soft palm. Perhaps it wasn't love between him and Ju Zi, but they were definitely more than ordinary friends. He would definitely be happy for Ju Zi if she could find a good spouse. However, would she be happy with someone like Xu Tianran? Furthermore, Xu Tianran was an aggressive person. Once he ruled the Sun Moon Empire, the war might really come soon. Right now, he couldn't help but think of what Ju Zi said before, if there was a day that they met on the battlefield. Just as Huo Yuhao was overthinking things, Ju Zi had already pushed Xu Tianran into a soul elevator. Jing Hongchen and 4 elders followed him into the elevator. As the elevator rose, everyone could see the regent. Their cheers started to ring out. This crown prince was actually able to win the hearts of the people. The officials couldn't follow him up the elevator. They used the stairs to one side of the main stage to ascend. Xu Tianran's arrival also meant that the tournament was about to begin. Ju Zi pushed Xu Tianran to the center of the main stage. She didn't sit down, but stood beside him. Since she didn't sit, the officials who were panting after climbing the stairs also didn't dare to sit, and could only remain standing. Xu Tianran nodded at Ju Zi, who then slowly walked forward to a sound-amplifying soul tool. Her moving voice soon rang out to everyone. Silence. A low voice sounded, and a strong suppression filled the entire place. After the voice sounded, everyone felt that everything in front of them had turned dark. Even their breathing sped up. Any commotions disappeared after it spoke. The entire tournament venue turned silent instantly, to the point where even a dropped pin would ring out. What abilities did she have? How was she able to exert such terrifying suppression? She had used her own strength to terrorize more than 100,000 people. Was this really achievable by a soul master? Huo Yuhao was horrified, and he blurted out almost instantly, Darkness Holy Dragon, Dragon Emperor Doluo Long Xiaoyao. Others might be unfamiliar with that voice, but he was extremely familiar with it. It sounded old, yet was filled with might. The owner of this voice was the one who had intercepted him back then and left Elder Shen terrified. He was the Dragon Emperor Doluo Long Xiaoyao, a rank 99 ultimate Doluo, and the only one left from the twin holy dragons of Black and White. He was actually here, and had personally paid a visit to boost the Sun Moon Empire's presence. Huo Yuhao was now certain that the Holy Ghost Church and Sun Moon Empire were very close with each other. Ju Zi cleared her throat at this moment. Her moving voice resonated through the sound-amplifying soul tool, and everyone heard her. If Long Xiaoyao's voice was a demonstration of his strength, Ju Zi's voice was a demonstration of the Sun Moon Empire's cutting-edge technology. Citizens of the Sun Moon Empire and distinguished guests from afar, I'm here to welcome all of you on behalf of the Prince Regent. At the same time, I announce on his behalf that the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament has officially begun. Her opening speech was very straightforward. She didn't ramble about superfluous stuff. That was Xu Tianran's style. Everything was about one's abilities. To him, talking more was only a big waste of time. Long live the Prince Regent. The citizens of the Sun Moon Empire knelt down towards Xu Tianran, the likely successor of the current emperor. Xu Tianran continued to wear a smile on his face as he sat in his wheelchair. He reached out his right hand towards Ju Zi. Ju Zi placed her right hand on his palm before sitting beside him as she leaned on him. She wore a light smile on her face. Xu Tianran patted her hand and didn't say anything. He gazed calmly at the tournament stage below. My beloved subjects, take a seat, Xu Tianran said calmly. The officials only dared to sit at this point. Every seat was tagged according to their statuses in the empire, so they couldn't sit in the wrong seat. The person sitting on the other side of Shu Tianran wasn't Jing Hongchen. It was a middle-aged man wearing a long black robe with golden sleeves. This person was expressionless, and had a pale look on his face. The weird thing was that there seemed to be a hazy layer around his face, and it wasn't possible to see his face clearly. Jing Hongchen was sitting on the other side of Zhu Zi. The tournament rules and regulations will be read out now, a sonorous voice sounded. After this, the tournament's rules and regulations were read out. They were unchanged from the instruction booklets disseminated to every team. After the reading was done, an elder walked up to the sound-amplifying soul tool and said loudly, "First battle of the preliminary round, Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy against the Dragonslayer sect. The members of both teams, please proceed to the waiting area." The waiting area was a special region in front of the pergola. 7 chairs were placed on each side, and the 2 rows of chairs were separated by a horizontal distance of 20 meters. Hua Yuhao revealed a smile on his face. No wonder Shrek Academy was given the empty lot. It was on purpose. According to the tournament rules, the first battle should involve the current title holders. Since Shrek Academy was given the empty lot, the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy would replace their spot, as they were the runners-up of the previous tournament. This was undoubtedly a trick played by the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. Very soon, Hua Yuhao saw someone familiar. Xiao Hongchen and Meng Hongchen were in front, and behind them were 5 young soul masters that he had never seen before. They directly entered the waiting area. The unfortunate Dragonslayer sect also sent 7 members into the waiting area. However, Hua Yuhao was surprised that the 7 members from the Dragonslayer sect were very confident. They weren't fearful because their opponents were the runners-up in the previous tournament. They were quite imposing. However, Hua Yuhao didn't know that most sects didn't look up to academies. After all, the instructors and students in academies were limited by time. Apart from some special cases, the students from academies and disciples from sects were vastly different. A disciple remained in their sect for his entire life. For most sects with rich histories and legacies, they had something special about them. In the first Continental Elite Youth Soul Master tournaments, sects had been included. However, they were subsequently removed for some reason. The Dragonslayer sect was a sect that had a legacy of more than 10,000 years. They came from the Heavenly Soul Empire, and were a traditional Soul Master sect. They discriminated against soul tools, and were scornful towards the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy's team. They didn't think they were going to lose. "Referee, please enter the stage. The first competitor for each side, please enter the stage too," the elder who was emceeing instructed them. Hua Yuhao compared this tournament with the last one. Although he didn't want to admit it, he was certain that he preferred this edition of the tournament more. It was simpler, less flowery, and more practical for fighting. This was the true meaning of a tournament. It was a way to increase the sparring, interaction, and learning between soul masters and soul engineers. The referee was an elder more than 50 years old. It was impossible to tell his cultivation before he unleashed his martial soul. The first competitor from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy was Meng Hongchen. She was the only one on the team that was inferior to Jing Hongchen, and was the first to compete. This showed how much the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy wanted to win the first battle. This wasn't just about victory, it concerned the face of the Sun Moon Empire. A young man from the Dragonslayer sect was first to compete. He had a somewhat special appearance. His head was a little flat, he wasn't tall, and he looked a little thick. His palms were extremely large. As he opened them wide beside his body, they looked like fans. At this point, the spectators maintained their silence. They hadn't recovered from the Dragon Emperor Doluor's suppression, as only a short period of time had passed. In this individual elimination round, I will decide who's the winner once either of you loses your fighting strength, or concedes defeat. You must not harm your opponent. Understand, the referee instructed both parties. Yes. The youth representing the Dragonslayer sect appeared full of energy. After acknowledging the referee's words, he turned around and walked towards his own side. He didn't even carry out the formalities. According to the rules, both parties had to be 100 meters apart from each other before the fight started. This was fairer to some soul masters and soul engineers who were skilled in long-range attacks. Meng Hongchen had experienced great transformations and become a lady. Her slender figure was proportionate, and she was very charming. Although she wasn't as good-looking as Wang Donga or Jiang Nannan, she was still a beauty. However, the other party didn't even glance at her before walking away. Meng Hongchen was greatly displeased by his attitude, and a vicious look flashed across her eyes. She snorted and turned to the other side of the stage. Very soon, both parties were in position. The referee lifted his right hand high. When his palm swiped down, the first battle of the tournament began. Bang! There was a boom that resonated from the youth's leg just as the referee's right hand swiped down. The tough, metal floor was dented as he leapt out. His short and stocky body burst towards Meng Hongchen like a fired cannon shell. While he appeared to look down on Meng Hongchen, he didn't truly underestimate her. When a soul master fought against a soul engineer, it was important to close the gap. His soul rings lit up as he burst forward. It was easy to tell that he was an assault-type soul master from the power that he unleashed. The sudden burst of strength allowed his cultivation to temporarily rival that of an agility-type soul master. 2 yellow, 2 purple and 1 black soul ring, the best combination, lit up on the youth's body. In this tournament, a 5-ringed soul master was considered quite strong. There were only a few 6-ringed soul masters and soul engineers from a few outstanding academies. The Dragonslayer sect didn't have a high standing, but they sent a 5-ringed soul king right from the start. This showed how solid their foundation was. The expression of many leaders from the various academies changed when they saw this. Meng Hongchen didn't rush forward, and didn't even retrieve the soul tool that she always used. She walked forward leisurely, and only an icy blue halo slowly spread from her feet. 2 yellow, 2 purple and 2 black soul rings slowly rose up, and caused the spectating Dragonslayer sect team members to change their expressions. As sects weren't allowed to compete in the last tournament, and each edition was 5 years apart, the Dragonslayer sect knew very little about the Sun Moon Soul Engineering Academy's team. They felt that they had bad luck after drawing the previous runners-up, but didn't think they would lose. However, they felt pressured when they saw Meng Hongchen's soul rings. 6 rings of the best combination. Was that even possible for soul engineers? There was an age limit of 20 years. The youth had already reached Meng Hongchen as they were thinking of all this. He was the second strongest member of the Dragonslayer sect's team. Furthermore, his fighting style was that he would never retreat. Even when he saw Meng Hongchen's 6 soul rings, he wasn't afraid. His first and third soul rings lit up as he charged her. The youth let out a low-pitched groan, and his stocky body suddenly ballooned in size. His increase in size wasn't proportionate, he only stretched horizontally. A pair of thick, twisted and sharp horns poked out from his shoulders. They were almost 2 feet long. His muscles were about to tear his shirt and reveal his naked, burly body. It was his first soul skill, Strength of Barbaric Bull. The martial soul of this youth was a charging bull. It didn't sound very impressive, but it was one of the top-ranked bull-type martial souls. Although the Strength of Barbaric Bull only came from his first soul ring, it was quite dominant. Not only was it extremely strong and impactful, but it also made him temporarily lose any sensation of pain, and increased his defensive strength greatly. Among all the strengthening skills that came from first soul rings, the Strength of Barbaric Bull was one of the top 3, and was even stronger than Dai Yuehang's White Tiger's shield. His eyes turned blood red at the same. 2 streaks of bloody light shot out from his eyes straight towards Meng Hongchen. Meng Hongchen was given a shock. Meng Hongchen shuddered in her heart. Not only this, but she also found out that everything around her had seemed to slow down. There was even a control-type soul skill. It came from the third soul ring of the charging bull, Glare of Barbaric Bull. He had locked onto his opponent, allowing him to track her while she tried to dodge his attack. At the same time, he slowed her dodging speed. Compared to academies, sects were much better in some areas. For example, their research in some special martial souls was much better. In every sect, there was a certain martial soul that was passed down from generation to generation. After years of legacy, their research on that specific martial soul would have become very profound. This was something that sects couldn't compare to. Simply put, the research of academies only scratched the surface, but the research of sects managed to get to the crux. After countless attempts, they found the most suitable martial soul that they could pass down for generations. This was the case for this youth from the Dragonslayer sect. His Strength of Barbaric Bull and Glare of Barbaric Bull came from soul rings that were the most suitable for the charging bull. They were also soul rings that formed the best combination. However, he felt a chill as he burst into the icy blue region. He actually shivered, and slowed slightly. At this point, he was already very close to Meng Hongchen. There wasn't any time for him to think, and thus he continued his charge towards Meng Hongchen. Meng Hongchen smiled and blew gently towards his direction. Her first and third soul rings lit up at the same time, causing the smooth, icy surface beneath their feet to extend. The youth's sharp horns were already in front of Meng Hongchen. It was a coincidence, but his horns were directly in front of Meng Hongchen's chest because he wasn't very tall. Meng Hongchen looked a little vexed, and in the next instant, she appeared behind the youth. His body flashed past Meng Hongchen quickly, and he didn't manage to strike her. However, he managed to stop himself from instantly using his Glare of Barbaric Bull before he turned around and burst towards Meng Hongchen again. However, 2 Meng Hongkens appeared on the icy surface. His Glare of Barbaric Bull tried to lock onto both figures, but it lost its effect instantly. He was stunned. This was Meng Hongchen's third soul skill, Ice Reflection. The figure that she reflected looked exactly like her. Through various reflections, she kept on conjuring projections of herself. As a result, she then gave the youth the feeling that 3 of her had appeared even though his glare of barbaric bull was still locked onto her body, as she kept on changing her position using her soul skill. Another intense chill engulfed his body. The youth revealed a look of horror, and his 5th soul ring lit up without any hesitation. It was a pity that it was too late. Compared to 5 years ago, Meng Hongchen's ice-toad venom was even stronger now. Furthermore, she wasn't simply at rank 61 now that she possessed 6 soul rings. A layer of blue spread across the youth's face. Before his 5th soul ring even lit up, he groaned and trembled before he collapsed to the floor. All the other competing members from the Dragonslayer sect in the waiting area all stood up suddenly. They couldn't believe the scene in front of them. They didn't understand what was going on. The light from Meng Hongchen's soul rings retracted, and she lifted her chin arrogantly. She turned to the referee and said, "I've won. Next competitor please." After saying this, she retrieved a milk bottle to restore her soul power. In this individual elimination round, there weren't any rules that stated she couldn't use soul tools to aid her recovery. The referee rushed to the youth and checked his condition. He nodded at Meng Hongchen after ascertaining that her opponent had completely lost his fighting strength. "You've won, but your martial soul is poison type. Please help him neutralize the poison to prevent endangering his life," the referee said. Meng Hongchen twisted her lips and said, "Referee, have you forgotten? There's still the team round later." Yes. According to the rules, no substitutions could be made in the team round after the individual elimination round was over. This also meant that the members in the waiting area had to compete in the team round. The referee furrowed his brow and said, "However, his life will be in danger if this continues." Meng Hongchen shouted towards the waiting area where the Dragonslayer sect's team members were, "Promise me that he won't compete in the team battle, and I'll help him neutralize the poison." Poison. The rest of the Dragonslayer sect team only now understood how Meng Hongchen managed to defeat her opponent. They all looked at one another. Eventually, they focused their attention on one person. It was a tall and huge youth, who was also their team leader for this tournament. "Please neutralize the poison. He won't compete in the team round later." This team leader didn't hesitate at all, and immediately made his decision. Of course, that was because none of them specialized in neutralizing poison or were healing-type soul masters. Meng Hongchen squatted down without hurry and pressed her hand on the youth's chest. She sucked back her ice-toad venom. Wang Donga said to Hua Yuhao softly in the resting area, "Meng Hongchen's abilities have increased significantly." Hua Yuhao said, "After 2 years of exchange, they have learned something from Shrek Academy. Did you interact with the 2 siblings? What standard has Meng Hongchen's abilities reached?" Wang Donga twisted her mouth and said, "I did interact quite a fair bit with Meng Hongchen. However, it's because she harassed me every day. I don't know what rank her soul power is. She conceals her abilities very well. However, I estimate that her cultivation is above mine. The 2 of them already had 5 rings 5 years ago. I'm sure they are above rank 65 right now." "Harass you?" Hua Yuhao's expression turned weird. "My Donga is a male and a lady killer. Impressive, impressive. If you meet her, you can trap her with your beauty." Wang Donga blushed. "I didn't." Hua Yuhao chortled and changed the topic. He said, "As a soul engineer, Meng Hongchen used the methods of soul masters to win the fight. This shows how confident she is in her own cultivation. Her opponent wasn't weak either. His martial soul and soul skills are quite strong. I used my spiritual detection to sense the youth from the Dragonslayer sect. He has invigorating chi. With strengthening skills, he managed to resist Meng Hongchen's venom for some time. He might have caused some trouble for her if he used his strongest soul skill immediately. These sect teams are indeed quite extraordinary. This edition of the tournament will be quite cracking." Meng Hongchen's dominance cast a shadow over the Dragonslayer sect. The second to compete was a thin and tall youth. When he stood in front of Meng Hongchen, he looked at her with a more cautious look. The referee repeated the rules again. This Dragonslayer sect competitor took the initiative to say, "Dragonslayer sect. Fengshen." "Fengshen?" Meng Hongchen was stunned. Fengshen's lips moved slightly, and he replied, "It's Fengshen, not Fengshen." Meng Hongchen twisted her lips and said, "It'd be best if you were called Fengshen. It sounds mightier." A furious look flashed across Fengshen's eyes. "Don't be too arrogant. Don't think that you'll win against me just because you won against my vice team leader." Meng Hongchen threw him a scornful look. "I'll try. I think he had the same thought as you. He didn't even touch my sleeves before I defeated him." Her self-confidence was one of a kind. She wasn't depleted from the first battle. Furthermore, she took the opportunity to replenish her soul power as the vice team leader from the Dragonslayer sect was poisoned. She was basically still in her peak condition right now. Naturally, she wasn't too bothered by Fengshen. Fengshen nodded at her and walked towards his position expressionlessly. The 2 of them quickly drew their distance from each other and went to their respective positions. Everyone watched as the referee lifted his right hand before swiping it down. The second battle began. As the referee's hand swiped down, a loud eagle call sounded. Following this, a bolt of dim purplish electricity instantly shot into the sky. It was extremely quick, such that Hua Yuhao's spiritual detection couldn't even capture it. It was Feng Shen who had shot into the sky. He was too quick. 2 yellow, 2 purple and 1 black soul rings shone on his body. Right now, he had already unleashed his soul rings. A pair of deep blue wings that didn't seem too wide extended from his arms. His entire body released a strong dim purplish glow. In a matter of seconds, he was already 30 meters high in the air, and was far away from Meng Hongchen. It's very targeted. Hua Yuhao was stunned as he commented. Feng Shen was using speed to curb Meng Hongchen's venom. Undoubtedly, he had to be very explosive in terms of his offensive power. Meng Hongchen's live experience was rather rich. Seeing that her opponent had burst into the sky, she was also shocked. However, she didn't panic. Her 6 soul rings lit up. Her Ice Venom Ring and Ice Reflection specialty skills were unleashed concurrently. In midair, Feng Shen's wings flapped open to both sides. His dim purplish glow started to turn darker, and his first and third soul rings shone concurrently. When his first soul ring lit up, his wings also increased 1 foot in size. The dim purplish glow became increasingly darker. When his third soul ring lit up, the glow from his body became even more intense. Everything within a 10-meter radius turned purple. Following this, his 5th soul ring lit up, too. The pitch-black soul ring expanded out before converting into rings of light that revolved around his body. His body started to distort, and became a little unclear. Shu Sanxia, who was sitting beside Hua Yuhao, squinted and said, "He wants to end this battle in one strike." Hua Yuhao smiled and asked, "Third senior, what's your take on this guy's attack?" Shu Sanxia replied without any hesitation, "Very strong. From the looks of it, his martial soul should be the lightning falcon. The lightning falcon has always been recognized as a predator of eagles. It's an extremely quick martial soul. It's a third the size of other falcons, but is extremely vicious. It feeds on the internal organs of other falcons. Even an eagle 10 times its size is scared of it. It's not just quick, it's able to alter its direction at high speed in the air. Among agility-type martial souls, it's one of the best. Of course, its strengths and weaknesses are evident. I don't think I need to explain what its weakness is with high speed and a quick offense, right?" Xiao Xiao and Jiang Nannan said at almost the same time, "Defend." Shu Sanxia chuckled and said, "If I were his opponent, he'd collide with my shield and die." Jiang Nannan glared at him and snapped, "Would it kill you not to boast?" Shu Sanxi's expression turned from arrogant to deep. He was filled with passion as he looked at Jiang Nannan and said, "I won't die from not boasting. However, I'll die without you." As he spoke, he held onto Jiang Nannan's hand and caressed it. Jiang Nannan's face turned red. She made a spitting sound before turning her attention back to the stage. However, she didn't pull her hand back. A dim light flashed. Hua Yuhao revealed a pensive look on his face. He was also observing how Meng Hongchen was going to resist the lightning falcon's quick offensive strike. Just like Feng Shen, Meng Hongchen's weaknesses and strengths were also very evident. Without a doubt, her strength lay in her venom. Even opponents with a greater cultivation than her might find it difficult to win against her. This was the case with Dai Yuehang back then. However, her offensive and defensive strengths weren't very impressive even though she was poisonous. Back when she only had 5 rings, her only true offensive soul skill was her 5th soul skill, Ice Fire Venamdragon's Corkscrew, and she had relied on her Ice Reflection as her defensive soul skill. When she faced a domain-type, long-range attack, it was difficult for her to counter. However, the difference Meng Hongchen had with her opponents was that she wasn't just a soul master, she was also a soul engineer. Hua Yuhao and the few of them could discern her weaknesses, so she naturally knew what her weaknesses were too, and she relied on soul tools to make up for her weakness. As for what she could do, it wasn't something that they knew yet. They could only learn by observation. Feng Shen took quite a long time to prepare his 5th soul skill. As the glow around his body distorted, it slowly disappeared. The dim purplish glow in midair slowly turned dark purple. A purple eagle with 3-meter-long wings slowly took form. This resembled a martial soul true body. Meng Hongchen could sense that she was being locked onto. She had no way of differentiating whether her opponent's attack was domain-type or omnidirectional. Under such an unfavorable circumstance, Meng Hongchen still managed to keep herself poised, and appeared very calm. There were no emotions on her face, and no one knew what she was thinking. At this point, the purplish figure up in the air finally moved. It formed an arc in the air that came straight towards Meng Hongchen. He was too quick, and caused a piercing sonic boom as he was halfway there. This only happened because he was traveling almost at the speed of sound. Meng Hongchen instantly understood that his attack would be omnidirectional. However, he was so quick that it was impossible for her to unleash her Ice Reflection. This terrifying speed was beyond her comprehension. She'd never even seen a 7-ringed soul sage reach that speed before. The purplish glow appeared right in front of her as it was unleashed and the sonic boom sounded. However, a dim pinkish glow was suddenly released from Meng Hongchen's chest. This glow changed into a barrier that blocked her body. At the most critical moment, she still relied on a soul tool. It was in her nature. Boom. Meng Hongchen's entire body was swallowed by the frightening purple glow. The tremendous impact caused the metal floor to cave in. Even the icy surface formed by Meng Hongchen's Ice Reflection started to crack. The strike was truly powerful. All the spectators held their breath. This strike was too terrifying. Although they knew Soul Masters were strong, it was very rare for them to personally witness the supernatural abilities of a Soul Master. The frightening strength of impact generated balls of cyclones that caused ripples in the defensive light barriers surrounding the stage. Everyone's attention was caught by the purplish glow. For a Soul King to unleash such a strike, he was close to the standard of a Soul Emperor. In fact, another Soul Master wouldn't have given Feng Shan so much time to prepare. He had used too much time to accumulate his power. Regarding this, the Dragonslayer sect must have had judged that Meng Hongchen wouldn't take the initiative to close the gap, and so Feng Shan was instructed to use his strongest attack immediately. Events proved that they had been right. At least, Feng Shan managed to successfully unleash his strongest strike. However, had he actually won? The purple slowly faded away, and two figures appeared in front of everyone. Meng Hongchen was still standing in her initial position, completely unmoved. Her entire body was engulfed by the dim pinkish light barrier. Feng Shan was 10 meters away from her, one of his knees on the floor. His arms that had changed into wings had drooped down, as if they had lost a bone, and he was panting hard. Meng Hongchen hadn't unleashed an invincible barrier, but it seemed like the protective barrier that she had used was at least Class 7. If it were Class 6, she couldn't possibly remain in her position after suffering such a violent attack. Plop! Feng Shan collapsed to the ground and went unconscious. After completing his strongest strike, his arms were fractured, and he had also suffered from the Ice Toad Venom's poison. However, Meng Hongchen also looked to be in bad shape. She didn't expect her trump card to be revealed to all her opponents. Feng Shan's attack had been too strong, such that her soul power was depleted by 40%. She was only able to tap into the backlash of a Class 7 soul tool to gravely hurt her opponent. This was extremely targeted. If Meng Hongchen only had 5 rings and didn't have such a strong defensive soul tool, she would have lost. We concede defeat. He won't compete later either. Please neutralize his poison, the team leader of the Dragonslayer sect's team decided immediately. Cheers also exploded out at this moment. Meng Hongchen wasn't just representing the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, she was also representing the Sun Moon Empire. Here, she didn't have any lack of fans, and she had won 2 fights consecutively. They were cheering for her victory. In the succeeding rounds, the Dragonslayer sect didn't have anyone that could curb Meng Hongchen, for people fell to her poison. However, her own soul power was also being increasingly depleted. After all, this was a fight between 2 teams. Although her cultivation was greater than rank 65, her soul power was still limited. If not for the fact that her first 2 opponents were Soul Kings, she wouldn't have been able to survive more than 4 rounds. To prevent her from suffering any injuries, Meng Hongchen conceded defeat when the Dragonslayer sect's team leader stepped up to compete. Eventually, she didn't manage to defeat the entire Dragonslayer sect's team. Even so, the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy demonstrated their worth. Their second competing member was a Soul King and Class 5 Soul Engineer. As he fought the team leader of the Dragonslayer sect's team, he eventually managed to eke out a victory. The Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy thus became the first side to win the first round of the tournament. They didn't even compete in the team round, and managed to advance from the first round with 6 points. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.